Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, and this is your Cannabis Business Podcast. Today, we're going to dive into a new study about cannabis customers visiting dispensaries roughly once a week and prefer weekdays, yet they don't really have anywhere to go. So we're going to look at this other report from MJ Business Daily about on-site consumption in Anchorage, Alaska, following on the heels of West Hollywood. But there's going to be some headwinds. So is there increased fatalities and traffic accidents after legalization? There's a new data report we'll dive into as well. On the line with us is Dan Chemist, our CBD correspondent with Good CBD Products.
So I like it. So we got a through line today, huh? So basically, when do you buy your weed? Where do you go to burn it? And then since there's concerns about creating public spaces, the whole thing of addressing some of that. Chronic, you are a mastermind.
Well, according to a newly released Xeric walkthrough data, 60% of cannabis dispensary customers on average are first-time visitors and only 40% are return customers. Regular customers typically go on average 7.8 days between visits, and they're more likely to come in on a weekday than over the weekend. They typically spend on average 20 minutes in the store, which fluctuates to 30 minutes in the morning and 19 minutes in the evening. And also interesting, about 25% of the dispensary customers open their emails. So this number rises to 30% for emails with non-promotional subject lines. That's interesting. Both you and I get email alerts, or text alerts, I should say. And it's not really something I really thought that would work, but with a discounter, when you see, special sales, it's definitely something I take a look at, like $15 vape pens when they were trying to get those 1 grams off the shelf. Definitely something that is enticing to get you off your ass and into the store.
Funny story, Chronic. I've never been subject to marketing emails. And for some reason in cannabis, I am. You send me a thing that says, woohoo, on such and such a day, we've got such and such, and it's going to have a ridiculously awesome price. I am motivated to go check that out. So I don't know, maybe that's more about me than about the market. But hey, I got to disagree with that data, brother. That time in store seems so out of whack with what I see on the ground in Oregon and Washington. That time in the store, I can't imagine somebody spending 20 minutes in a store unless they're literally, they're literally killing time. Okay. So again, not to be hard to work with, but I respectfully disagree.
I think because 60% are new, new individuals coming to the store for the first time, they're going to have a lot of questions. So I have seen that where there's an individual who just takes up a bud tender's time and you see the other people cycling through over and over. I've seen people stay in the store for 15, 20 minutes. 30 minutes is crazy. They're obviously looking for some RSO, Rick Simpson oil, or people looking for specific medication are going to take a lot longer. And especially, new people into a store for the first time are going to take a lot longer. But this article goes on to say that cannabis customer data is limited due to dispensary industry's short lifespan. So what they learned so far is that the cannabis dispensary customers typically go almost 8 days between visits. They've learned that only 40% are return visitors and customers are more likely to stop by on a weekday. So if your customer isn't responding to the flashy email subject lines or text, try sending useful information in your emails, like an informed wellness alert or cannabis topics. See if there's an open rate increase. Tie those articles to feature product in stores, and more education people have on the product, the more likely they are to try it. I would also say that trying to educate and then sell is incredibly difficult. And so if you can use, different articles or topics or products to kind of tie into an active cannabis lifestyle, if that's, your thing, definitely would help with increased sales, I would imagine. But ultimately, where are you going to go and smoke it, right? You can go through all that data, you can go through a purchase cycle, but where are you going to go? Washington State has a Class C felony on maintaining and operating a marijuana lounge. West Hollywood, however, just opened up a legal lounge. Anchorage is trying to follow suit with on-site consumption. And so hopefully there's more opportunities. I've said in the past, it's like a window into the soul of the community. When you can see people and normalize it, that's when it's going to be a game changer. So Alaska, this bill isn't all that great. I mean, it's going to have to be completely separate because of the Clean Indoor Air Act for Alaska wouldn't allow for employees to work in there. So it would be a completely separate area. So imagine you have a coffee shop on one side and a library on the other. People can go in the library and smoke as long as there's no employees. Then you go into the coffee shop area and make your purchase. That's kind of what I'm envisioning how this would work, but that's pretty difficult to try and regulate and everything else. It's not ideal. This would approve marijuana smoking in a store and be heavily regulated to take place in areas apart from employees and other retail customers. So it would be monitored and separate from employees and other retail customers, and change the city's workplace safety code that bans indoor smoking, allowing for cannabis smoking at dispensaries. So not ideal. We'll just have to see how that plays out. There's a lot of headwind against smoking in general indoors, no matter what it is or how it is. There's advocates that are staunch opponents, no matter what. And then the other headwind you're going to face when trying to implement one of these bills, like we just did a couple of weeks ago. I'm a chair on the committee to overturn a felony in Washington State to maintain and operate a marijuana lounge. And so hopefully with the passage of that bill, it will overturn the felony, and then we implemented laws similar to kind of what you're seeing that approves the Clean Air Indoor Act, basically just wipes that clean with a stroke of a pen, and provides a safe place, like a membership club for people to go to and consume cannabis. But you're going to run into additional headwinds like impaired driving. So there's a new report from Benzinga out here talking about cannabis legalization, and does it increase traffic fatalities? According to this report, it does not. I think we've consistently seen that over and over as new states that regulate cannabis have a reduction in the amount of opioids and alcohol. And that reduces the number of fatalities and traffic accidents. And that's just kind of a stat that we've seen over and over again.
You know, the times I've had a chance to talk to police about this, the thing that's recurrent is cannabis by itself, not an issue. Alcohol plus anything, or alcohol by itself, an issue. Alcohol plus is the other one. So alcohol plus weed, alcohol plus cough syrup, alcohol plus painkiller, whatever. And so it's interesting because, again, you know, there's some studies that show that people on cannabis actually, you know, depending on the individual, may drive better. So who knows?
So according to this report, 44.6% people have replaced some of their drinking with cannabis use. So among the public health concerns commonly cited by opponents of cannabis legalization, there's a perceived increase in traffic accidents and fatalities. Yet through examination of 5 years worth of data and multiple research initiatives, the evidence has demonstrated that, in fact, full legalization has served to decrease fatal traffic accidents. So there's been research from the American Journal of Public Health, as well as the National Bureau of Economic Research, and they all came to the same conclusion that despite having a different approach, and they all cited that there's a reduction in the amount of fatalities and accidents in legal states.
You know, one of the points it proves is this. You know, today we don't know. Today we can kind of theorize, and we've got some early indicators. But we are on the cusp of knowing. And sometime in the next, you know, year, 5 years, 10 years, there's going to be the anecdotal data to turn around and answer a lot of these questions. And again, you know, regardless of where you fall on the issue, knowing that data's coming that's going to help resolve the issue is really kind of exciting.
Definitely. And this report goes on to say that the researchers attributed that to the tendency for people in legalized states to substitute alcohol for cannabis, leading to a decline in overall alcohol use. So that decline is also backed by the research from New Frontier Data. So researchers acknowledge that because alternative mechanisms cannot be ruled out, the negative relationship between legalization and alcohol-related traffic fatalities doesn't necessarily imply that driving under the influence of cannabis is safer than driving under the influence of alcohol. Yeah, I would agree with that, but I also think that what people are doing is shifting what they're doing. So instead of drinking, they're probably consuming more THC and CBD, and then hopefully trying to get off opioids as well. So all in all, maybe cannabis cafes are the gateway to better, safer driving.
Well, you know, on the numbers, I mean, let's face it, some are just going to still drink, right? Some are going to shift over and burn their weed, and some are going to do both. The ones doing both, Yeah, they might be a risk. They might be. The ones that move over and just burn their cannabis, frankly, I think is probably, again, a more stable, safer individual to be around. So, again, those numbers, to look at those shifts, kind of fun. That's why you come back to the Talking Hedge, I bet.
So this article kind of concludes by saying, quote, "It remains early for a comprehensive nationwide evaluation of the effects of cannabis legalization on traffic fatalities, especially given that the patchwork of states with legalized programs in place. Nevertheless, early indications discount the fears about increased risk from traffic fatalities." Hopefully, after 5 years, there's enough reports to say that the safe driving from cannabis cafes isn't an issue. Impaired driving isn't an issue, that it is safe, that there isn't an increased amount of traffic fatalities. But time will tell. You have to come back to the Talking Hedge. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.